You know that feeling. You're sitting on the couch, phone in hand, just scrolling. Your thumb is doing all the work, swiping up, watching other people live their best lives while you're frozen in place. In the back of your mind, there's this nagging voice reminding you of the laundry piling up, that email you need to send, or that big project you promised yourself you'd start today, but you just don't. You can't.
And then comes the guilt. It's heavy, isn't it? That sinking feeling that you're wasting your potential, that you're just being lazy. We're living in a culture that screams at us to hustle 24/7. We're told that if we aren't grinding, we're failing, that silence and stillness are the enemies of success. So when we stop, even for a moment, we don't feel rested, we feel like failures. But what if I told you that you've been looking at it all wrong? What if I told you that laziness isn't your enemy, but actually a misunderstood tool?
In The Art of Laziness, the author, known simply as Library Mindset, flips the script on everything we've been taught about productivity. There is a powerful idea in the book that says laziness is a luxury in a world that glorifies busyness. Think about that. We are so busy chasing butterflies that we forget to build the garden that attracts them. Over the next few minutes, we're going to dismantle the guilt you feel about not doing enough. We're going to explore why the hustle culture might actually be the thing holding you back, and how doing less, strategically, can actually mean achieving more. It's time to stop fighting yourself and start understanding the art of doing nothing with purpose.
Welcome to The Last Read. Books for your ears, wisdom for your life. Today, we are opening the pages of a book that challenges the very foundation of our modern work ethic, The Art of Laziness by Library Mindset. Now, before you think this is a guide on how to binge watch TV without guilt, let me stop you right there. We aren't going to talk about just slacking off. We're going to talk about something far more interesting. We're talking about strategic laziness. It sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it? But this is the secret used by some of the most successful people in history to do less and yet somehow achieve more. The book argues that laziness isn't about avoiding work, it's about avoiding meaningless work. It's about what the author calls intelligent idleness, stripping away the busy work that makes us feel productive but gets us nowhere, so we can focus entirely on the few things that actually matter. If you want to master this art of doing less to achieve more, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss any future wisdom. And if you want to dive deeper, you can find the link to buy the book right in the description. But here is the question that usually comes up when people pick up this book. Who exactly is the author? Because Library Mindset isn't just a name on a cover, it's something much bigger.
It turns out the answer isn't a who, but a what. Library Mindset isn't your traditional author sitting in a cabin in the woods, scribbling away by candlelight. It's a digital powerhouse. It is actually a massive online community and brand that has quietly become one of the most influential voices in the modern self-improvement space. Think of them less like a writer and more like a modern-day philosopher for the scrolling age, a curator who sifts through the noise of the internet to find the signal. They take the complex teachings of ancient Stoicism, the discipline of history's greatest leaders, and the psychology of high performers, and they distill them into punchy, hard-hitting truths.
If you spend any time on social media, you have likely seen their work. They have millions of followers who treat their content like a daily vitamin, tuning in for a necessary dose of reality and discipline to cut through the chaos of modern life. This book, The Art of Laziness, is essentially the aggregation of their most potent lessons. It's a collection of those viral thoughts, the ones that make you stop scrolling and actually think, expanded into a cohesive manual for living.
And the first major lesson they tackle is the title itself, which challenges everything we think we know about work. We live in a culture that glorifies the 60-hour workweek, where the grind is practically a religion and being busy is worn like a badge of honor. But this book throws a wrench in that engine. We are about to explore why hustling might actually be the enemy of progress, and how the biological signal for laziness isn't a defect, but a tool we've been ignoring.
So let's look at this biological signal. Library mindset introduces a concept here that sounds like an oxymoron at first: productive laziness. And to understand it, we have to look at how we treat our machines versus how we treat ourselves. Think about a car engine. If you're driving down the highway and the temperature gauge spikes into the red and smoke starts pouring out from under the hood, what do? In the US, we're taught that in life, you press the gas harder, you hustle, you grind through the smoke. But with a car, you know that's insane. You pull over, you stop, you let it cool down. Because if you don't just lose time, you destroy the engine.
The book argues that laziness is often just your body's check engine light. It's not a moral failing, it's a maintenance request. We have this obsession with hustle culture, the 40, 50, 60-hour work weeks, filled with what the author calls busy work. We confuse motion with progress. We think that if we're sweating, we must be scoring points. But the Art of Laziness flips the script. It says, there is no reward for being busy all the time just for the sake of being busy. The goal isn't to be busy. The goal is to be effective.
This is where they bring in the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule. The book posits that 80% of your results come from just 20% of your efforts. So, productive laziness is essentially the permission to be lazy about that trivial 80% of stuff that doesn't really move the needle, so you can be hyper-focused and ferocious on the 20% that actually matters. It's about doing less, but better. It's about building a garden so butterflies come to you, rather than exhausting yourself chasing them with a net. But if the formula is so simple, do less busy work, focus on the vital few tasks, and listen to your body, why is it so hard to actually do? Why do we default to the busy work and the doom scrolling? Well, that brings us to the invisible wall that keeps us trapped in mediocrity, the place where dreams go to die.
That place, that graveyard of potential, is the comfort zone. It sounds nice, doesn't it? The comfort zone. It evokes images of a warm blanket, your favorite spot on the couch, and a bottomless queue of Netflix shows. It is the psychological state where everything feels safe, familiar, and controllable. Your anxiety is low, your stress is minimal, and the demands on your mental energy are practically non-existent. But the Art of Laziness offers a rather sobering perspective on this cozy little corner of our lives. The book describes it as a soft prison. The bars aren't made of steel, they're made of pillows and excuses. And because it's so comfortable inside, you never realize you're actually trapped until you try to leave. This brings us to one of the most misunderstood concepts in the realm of productivity: procrastination. We often label ourselves as lazy when we procrastinate. We think we have a defect in our work ethic. But the book argues that procrastination isn't really about laziness at all. It is about fear and emotional regulation.
Think about it. You don't put off filing your taxes because you physically cannot pick up a pen or log into a website. You don't skip the gym because the car won't start. You avoid these things because the task provokes a negative emotion. Maybe it's the anxiety of looking at your finances, the boredom of paperwork, or the physical discomfort of lifting weights. Your brain is wired to protect you. It sees that negative emotion as a threat, much like a predator in the wild. So it steers you toward the immediate dopamine hit of scrolling through social media or grabbing a snack. It's not that you can't do the work. It's that you are prioritizing short-term emotional relief over long-term gain. It is a mechanism to keep you safe in that soft prison. So how do we break out? How do we convince a brain that is addicted to safety to step into the unknown? The book suggests a powerful shift in perspective. You have to realize that avoiding the hard work doesn't eliminate pain. It just changes the type of pain you experience. There is a famous sentiment echoed in the book, often attributed to Jim Rohn, that perfectly encapsulates this. We must all suffer from one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The difference is in the weight. The pain of discipline weighs ounces. It's the temporary struggle of getting off the couch, the brief headache of focusing on a spreadsheet. But the pain of regret, that weighs tons. That is the heavy, crushing burden of looking back 5, 10, or 20 years from now and realizing you stayed in the soft prison when the door was unlocked the whole time. To master the art of laziness, you must make the pain of discipline feel less daunting than the terror of standing still. However, once you decide to accept the pain of discipline, you cannot simply run full speed at every wall you see. That is a recipe for burnout, not success. You need a strategy to ensure that the discipline you exert yields the highest possible return, so you can get back to resting without the guilt. And to do that, we need to look at a mathematical principle that governs almost everything in your life.
It's called the Pareto principle, or as you likely know it, the 80-20 rule. Now, you might have heard this tossed around in business meetings, usually by someone trying to justify budget cuts. But in the context of the art of laziness, this isn't just a productivity hack. It is the absolute antidote to overwhelming laziness. The principle is deceptively simple. It states that 80% of your results come from just 20% of your actions. Think about that for a second. It means that the vast majority of what you do every day, checking your phone, reorganizing your desk, color-coding your calendar, is statistically irrelevant to your actual success. The author argues that we often feel overwhelmed not because we have too much to do, but because we are drowning in the useless majority of tasks. We confuse movement with progress.
The art in The Art of Laziness is about ruthlessly identifying that vital 20% and having the courage to ignore the rest. Let's look at a classic example. Imagine a sales executive in New York. They could spend 8 hours a day in their inbox, replying to every CC'd email, attending status update meetings, and feeling incredibly busy. They go home exhausted, feeling like they worked hard, but they accomplished nothing of value. Compare that to someone who ignores the inbox for 4 hours and spends that time focusing deeply on landing one massive client. That single action, that 20%, generates the commission, the promotion, and the success.
The book posits that true laziness, the good kind, the strategic kind, is about cutting out the busy work so you can rest without guilt. If you can achieve 80% of your results in a fraction of the time, the rest of the day is yours. You aren't skipping work. You are simply refusing to participate in the theater of productivity. But here is the catch. To find that 20%,
That habit is multitasking. We wear it like a badge of honor. I'm a great multitasker, we say in interviews, as if it's a superpower. But The Art of Laziness tears this idea apart. It argues that multitasking is a myth. You aren't actually doing two things at once. You are just rapidly switching your attention between them. And here is why that is fatal for your good laziness. Every time you switch contexts, from writing a report to checking a Slack notification, and then back to the report, you pay a tax. It's called the switching cost. Research often cited in productivity circles suggests it takes about 23 minutes to get back into a state of deep flow after a distraction. 23 minutes.
So, if you check your phone every 10 minutes, do the math. You are literally never focused. You are spending your entire day in a state of cognitive stuttering. You feel busy, you feel exhausted, but your brain is actually operating at a fraction of its potential. You are working hard, but you are working stupid. The book proposes a counterintuitive solution,
something often called deep work. This is the holy grail of the lazy achiever. The concept is simple, but the execution is rare. You block out a short period, say just 2 hours. You put the phone in another room. You turn off the internet if you don't need it. You create a fortress of solitude. During those 2 hours, you do not exist to the outside world. You focus on that one single high-value task we talked about earlier. The argument is that 2 hours of this deep work is worth more than 8 hours of typical, distracted office-style work. 2 hours of pure focus can finish the project that takes a distracted person 3 days. And this brings us back to the core philosophy of the book. If you crush your work in 2 hours of intensity, you earn 6 hours of freedom. You earn the right to be lazy. The distracted worker is the one who has to stay late, replying to emails at 9 p.m., because they spent their prime hours switching tasks. But there is a darker reason why we need to master this efficiency. It isn't just about getting off work early. It's about realizing that the clock isn't just ticking on your workday, it's ticking on your life. Most of us waste hours scrolling and switching tasks because we operate under a delusion. We think we have all the time in the world. We think there is always a later. But the book has a tool to shatter that illusion, a tool that is visually terrifying but incredibly effective.
That tool is the death calendar. Now, I know, it sounds grim, maybe even a little morbid, but the book argues that this is actually the ultimate cure for laziness. The concept is based on the ancient Stoic philosophy of memento mori, remember you must die. But the author doesn't just want you to think about it abstractly, they want you to see it. Imagine a single sheet of paper. On this paper, there are rows of empty boxes. Each box represents 1 week of your life, assuming you live to be 80 years old. That's roughly 4,000 weeks. The exercise is simple and terrifying. You take a pen and you fill in the boxes for the weeks you've already lived. If you're 25, you black out over 1,000 boxes. If you're 40, you black out half the page.
What you are left with is a visual representation of your remaining time. It's not an infinite horizon anymore. It's a finite number of empty little squares. The book describes this moment as a wake-up call like no other. When you look at that paper, you realize that someday isn't a guaranteed date on the calendar. It's just a blank box that you haven't filled yet, and you have fewer of them than you think. Suddenly, spending 3 hours scrolling through social media doesn't feel like relaxing anymore. It feels like a crime against yourself. You start to see that laziness isn't just a bad habit. It's a way of burning the limited currency you have. As the book puts it, we often live as if we have all the time in the world. But in reality, the clock is ticking on our dreams every single second.
This visualization forces you to stop waiting for the perfect time to start that business, or write that book, or get in shape. It screams at you that the perfect time is right now, simply because later might run out of boxes. It's a heavy realization, I know, but it's necessary. Because once you accept the shortness of life, you stop tolerating the things that waste it. You stop being busy, and you start being effective. And that clarity, that urgency, is the perfect place to land as we wrap up. Because everything we've talked about, from the deep work to the strategic laziness, it all leads to one final truth about how we should treat our time.
It leads to the realization that time isn't just money, it's life itself. And that brings us to the core takeaways of The Art of Laziness by Library Mindset. If you take nothing else away from this book, remember these 3 pillars. First, laziness can be strategic. It's not about doing nothing, it's about doing the right things and deliberately ignoring the rest.
It's the permission to be lazy about the 80% of tasks that only bring you 20% of the results, so you can attack that vital 20% with everything you've got.
Second, focus. We live an economy of distraction. The book reminds us that multitasking is a myth. It's just rapid task switching that drains your battery. To truly master the art of laziness, you have to master the art of saying no to the noise. And third, use the shortness of life to fuel your discipline. That death calendar we just talked about, it's not there to scare you. It's there to wake you up. It's the ultimate proof that waiting for someday is a luxury you can't afford. Ultimately, the art of laziness is about reclaiming your time, not wasting it. It's about understanding that hard choices lead to an easy life, while easy choices lead to a hard life.
If you're ready to stop being busy and start being free, I highly recommend picking up a copy. As always, I've put the link to buy the book right in the description below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure you subscribe to The Last Read. We've got plenty more life-changing wisdom coming your way, and you won't want to miss the next one. So, take a look at your calendar, look at those boxes, and ask yourself, are you filling them with busy work, or are you filling them with life? Stop waiting. Start living. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next read. Goodbye.